I don't even remember who did it. They tweeted out a picture of the old school all-star ballots where they used to go to it. You could only get them at stadiums, right? I'm pretty sure you could only get them at stadiums. And as a kid, I was going to Met games a ton. It was cheap. Tickets, literally, you could get a field-level ticket for $5. Not even kidding. You get a field box down the right field line or left field line, $5, and it was awesome. And you'd get the All-Star ballot, and they were like, you had to punch a little hole by the player that you wanted, and then you could vote as many times as you wanted. I voted plenty, and you'd stick them in ballot boxes at the stadiums. So I tweeted out, I saw a picture. I only voted in the National League side on Twitter. I mean, I voted in the American League when I was a kid, but and I voted for all Mets who were on the ballot. And if there weren't enough Mets, or if a Met wasn't at a specific position, I would vote for the person I thought was the best at that position. It's pretty simple. So I actually listed my ballot when I did it. They were like, you could get hanging chads. Right, because sometimes you would poke the little slot, and you didn't completely, dislodge that from the card. It was awesome. It was very old school, and it made me feel nostalgic about the game. I'm curious, Elliot Johnson, the player to be named later in a trade in 2012, in the offseason in 2012. I'm going to ask you a question about that. Then I have another trivia question before we're done. Were you an all-star? Now, you're much younger than I am, but were you an all-star voter, repeated voter as a kid growing up in the Chicagoland area?
Absolutely. So I remember them being the little bubbles. You filled them in, and then you stuff them. And, so we were huge Mark Grace, Andre Dawson fans.
Sure.
And even Shawan Dunston, because we used to love how he would showcase his arm by letting the runner think he could get close and then fire it over there at 108. So we loved watching those guys, and we would vote for them nonstop as much as we could. We would just fill all Cubs over and over again as many times as we could. And if people left them, sometimes we would pick them up and fill them out and then stuff them in the ballot too.
I mean, that's what you're supposed to do, right? I mean, that's especially as kids. I mean, I didn't care. I wanted to see my favorite players. I'm still mad. And by the way, we talked about it last week, R.I.P. to Dave Parker, who stole Lee Mazzilli's 1979 All-Star Game MVP by throwing two guys out at the plate in that All-Star game. Mazzilli hit the game-tying home run and then drew a bases-loaded walk to force in the winning run. Nobody's ever driven in the tying and winning runs, separate occasions in an All-Star game, and not been the MVP. But Dave Parker probably deserved it. So I'm kind of over it, but maybe not. And by the way, Mazzilli was on that ballot. That was a 1979 ballot. Do you remember the five prominent players that were in the trade in which you were the player to be named later?
Yeah, I think so. James Shields, Wade Davis, and then me.
Right.
For Will Myers, Jake Odorizzi, and then Montgomery.
Yes.
Right.
Very good. That's very good. Now, a player to be named later just means that you had to be taken off or put onto the 40-man roster, or taken off the 40-man roster before they could announce it, right?
Yeah, well, they were waiting for spring training to officially start. I think pitchers and catchers to start so that they could add.
Gotcha.
Jumbo, Paulino needed to go to the 60-day DL to add a roster spot so they could add me.
All right, let me get to what happened yesterday in Washington, D.C. Elliot Johnson is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Mike Rizzo, general manager, Dave Martinez, the manager. Combined, they won the World Series back in, 2018, was it? 2018 winning the World Series? Was this firing justifiable, or is this management just, we're no good, we're the worst team in the East, now. So this is our way of telling our fans, trying to tell our fans that we're actually trying.
So there's a couple of things going on here. So I'm a Rizzo fan, and obviously I played for Davey in Tampa Bay. So
Right.
I know Davey really, really well. He was the bench coach there while we were there for forever. And I've got, if your fan base knew him really well, I've got a really good Davey impression. We can do it another time. But no, so I mean, I was kind of critical of Davey back when I think the World Series was 19, if I'm not mistaken, might
Okay.
have been 18, but so I was critical of him that year, and then all of a sudden they turned it on and ended up winning the World Series. And I'll say it, I've said it here many times before, I'll say it again. We love Howie Kendrick. What a great baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
Beating the Astros is, I mean, it should be celebrated. So I respect what he was able to do. I think what he got in trouble again this year for throwing the players under the bus to the media. Like, you can do that behind closed doors, but doing it to the media, not so good. And then sweeping it under the rug, not great. They don't have a lot of momentum. They've kind of, what they've been doing as of late and selling to their fan bases, we've got young guys that are on the way,
Mm-hmm.
and they have so many holes, and they have great players. James Wood is incredible. I'm a big fan of Dylan Cruz. Brady House has come up, hit 3 hits off of Garrett Crochet, who may win the Cy Young Award this year. I mean, they've got guys that are unbelievable, but they don't have a great team. They've got like a group of individuals that haven't seemed to kind of congeal as a team. And Mackenzie Gore is great. They've got some guys that are really good, but they can't seem to really put it together. And every time it seems like when the game starts, they're expecting to lose instead of win. So I think when you get that atmosphere, it's probably time to start fresh and clean the slate. And, the Nationals may be selling, they may not be. So they may be trying to steer the organization in a different direction, but they've been selling their fan base for a while that we're going young for a number of years, and that rebuild seems like it's one of those buildings in New York City that's permanently have scaffolding around it, and it's probably time for some change. And I like Rizzo. I think he's a great scout and a great talent evaluator. I like Davey a lot, of course, but there's only so long you can kind of put up with these things, and probably was time for a fresh start. I don't fault them for starting over. I think the thing that they need to understand, though, if you're doing this right, you have a pretty good sense of who's going to fill that void.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably a short list of guys that would do really well. Like, I think they should definitely interview Sandy Alomar in Cleveland. I don't know if he'll ever leave there, but he would be a great person to put on that short list. George Lombard in Detroit, they're winning really well. So they need to bring some fresh blood where they expect to win, instead of every day coming to the yard expecting to lose.
Elliot Johnson is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. I know Mike Rizzo made some comments that basically I've dealt with this ownership group for 20 years, because ownership really is, and we see it across sports. There's a reason why certain organizations never win. And I know the Nationals did have a World Series, and they were really good for 4 or 5 years in a row. They were really good. They were right on the cusp of winning. But when your ownership group isn't great, how would you rate their ownership group?
I would say that they're actually above average in
Okay.
terms of ownership. Like, if the Dodgers are the gold standard,
Yeah.
and you could say the Pirates or even the Angels are the whatever perpetual bronze
Right.
standard. Whatever you want to come up with there on the other end of that spectrum.
Tim.
They're definitely in that 75th percentile type range. They do a good job.
Okay.
I mean, look at what they did. The way they rewarded Steven Strasburg, even though his arm was falling off after they won the World Series. I mean, you could point to that as being one of the downfalls of, hey, we're trying to hold on and we can win again. I think they gave him $200 million to not
Yeah.
pitch again. You could point to those types of things as, bad business sense, but being good to players and being good to the fan base. They probably didn't know that he was never going to pitch again. Obviously, that's why they extended the contract, but that you could point to that as being somewhere they had a poor process in place. But they do right by their players. They do a good job. They try to win. When they smell an opportunity to win, they invest. Bringing in Jason Worth back in the day, that was a great signing a long
Yeah.
time ago. They've really done a good job of developing Juan Soto, for example, and bringing him up, not being afraid to bring him up at 19. I think he did a rehab stint when he was 20, and I think he had I think he was the youngest on the field and had multiple years of service time. Bryce Harper. I mean, so they've done a great job. It's gone stale, and it's probably time for some new blood in there.
Elliot Johnson is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Are you still into Home Run Derby? Are you a guy who will tune in Monday night? Is it better than the All-Star Game? I asked you 16 questions at the same time. Are you still into Home Run Derby? Let's just narrow it down.
The Home Run Derby is the greatest event that baseball has to offer. It's not even close. I can remember, I think my first one was Ken Griffey Jr. hitting him off of the warehouse in Camden with the backwards hat. I can't think of any more classic than that, or Jason Giambi and Safeco. And just watching that super slow-mo cam and then trying to replicate that. That guy was so strong, and then getting to play with him. A guy, just remarkable people to be able to watch. Sammy Sosa, I think in Atlanta, hitting him off the facade there of the old Turner Field,
right?
Or Mark McGwire in Boston hitting him. You thought we're going to hit that Sitco sign, and of course they never did. But just, some of the most amazing. And then Bobby Abreu, I think in Philly, maybe one year, he ended up outlasting his bat. And then, of course, Raleigh native Josh Hamilton in Yankee Stadium, and then coming up second to Justin Morneau. That was painful, but the most talented baseball player that anybody has ever seen is Josh Hamilton, and so what he did, I think, in '08 in Yankee Stadium was amazing.
And it is amazing because the first couple of rounds were like Superman, and then losing to Justin Morneau would be one of the great Home Run Derby trivia questions ever. Who beat Josh Hamilton to win that? Because it's much like the Duke Carolina game from what 1995 or I think it was 95, where Jeff Capel hits the half court shot, only to tie the game, and Duke went on to lose in overtime or the second overtime, whatever it was. Hamilton never won that Home Run Derby. It is great. It does overshadow the game. Was it last year where these guys were wearing their own uniforms in Home Run Derby and then wore stupid uniforms during the All-Star Game? Shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't we have Home Run Derby uniforms and then everybody should wear their own uniform during the All-Star Game?
Yes. Yeah, there should be like a City Connect. Atlanta's hosting this year, so do everything Atlanta-based for the Home Run Derby, and then represent your city and your team for the game. I think is the best way to do it.
The classic Braves uniform with like the navy front with the white sleeves, which they're actually using, which is I think always smart to wear your best look. I don't know. I guess you could use the powder blue Bob Horner esque uniforms, right? For the road team. All right, give me before I ask you a trivia question, biggest surprise for you as a team so far this season?
Biggest surprise team. I think the Yankees have been super surprising. It's always so disappointing to look up and see them doing well. It's been pretty cool to see Toronto doing as well as they've been doing. I think that's been somewhat of a surprise. Didn't really expect them to do as well as they're doing. They got some momentum. Hopefully they can carry it. The Cubs have been outstanding, Adam.
Mashing the ball.
Man, they look good. And then now, Chicago has gotten warm and balls are jumping out of there. It's been playing differently. So as much offense as they put up, they're probably going to do more now, which is kind of scary to think about. They need to pick up some pitching for this before the break, and we'll see what they end up doing. They've got some good players that they could potentially move. I think those have been somewhat surprising to me. Cal Raleigh in Seattle has been very surprising.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. He hit his hardest ball of his career a couple of days ago from the right-hand side in Safeco, which is not an easy place to hit home runs at him. So
no.
Those are kind of the Braves stink, and that's been really surprising because they're supposed to be in, but now there's whispers of them selling. We'll see what they choose to do at the deadline here, but they've not been good. So those are kind of a couple of things that stand out right away.
All right, here's your trivia question. I told you I was going to ask you an impossibly hard trivia question. The Yankees have 4 position players who didn't. One of them's hurt. Mike Stanton's hurt. Well, Giancarlo Stanton, who are current or past MVPs. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Cody Bellinger, and Paul Goldschmidt. Mm-hmm. 2 other teams fielded everyday players for either four guys who had won MVP awards. Can you name either franchise?
Wow.
Yeah. Now they gave us on the TV. They gave the two teams, and all I had to do was name the MVPs. One of them I got easy. The other one I got 3 of the 4.
Okay, so no, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the Dodgers.
No.
Dang it.
Clayton Kershaw gives them 4 MVPs now, but position players, no. Yeah, exactly. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you because we have to break.
Sure.
The 78 Reds bench
the big red machine.
Bench Rose, Morgan, and George Foster. And the 82 Angels.
Would have never guessed that.
I got 3 of the 4. Lynn Carew. I didn't get Reggie Jackson. Forgot he was with the Angels then. And Don Baylor. So there you go.
That's a fantastic trivia question.
It is a great trivia question, and I made it more difficult by asking you to come up with the teams. Elliot Johnson, my friend, I will see you very soon.
Thanks, Adam.
Take care. Elliot Johnson here on the Adam Gold Show.